Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when the entire world becomes a game and the rules were written by someone who died 1,000 years ago? Because that's exactly what the Culling Game arc does to us. It takes everything you thought you understood about Jujutsu Kaisen, the characters' power, their motivations, the logic of the world, and throws it in your face like cards on a poker table. Except at this table, whoever loses doesn't walk away broke. They walk away dead. Take a breath, because this arc is dense. But I promise that by the time you finish this video, you'll understand every layer of it. And you'll understand why so many people consider the Culling Game the most ambitious point in the entire series. What is the Culling Game? First things first, let's get this straight. The Culling Game is not a tournament. It's not a sorcerer championship. It's an extermination with rules. The whole thing was engineered by Kenjaku, that being who's been jumping between bodies for centuries, and who, for a long time, you knew as Suguru Geto. He spent decades preparing for this moment, activating brains across the country, resurrecting sorcerers from the Heian era who had been lying dormant inside ordinary people, and setting everything in motion in a single night, the same night Satoru Gojo was sealed inside the prison realm. That's not a coincidence, that's choreography. With Gojo out of the picture, the balance of power in the sorcerer world simply ceased to exist, and Kenjaku used that vacuum to flip the switch, the rules that turn humans into pieces. Here's where things get complicated enough to make you hit pause a few times. The Culling Game operates through colonies, areas scattered across Japan, where anyone who enters is automatically enrolled as a participant. And once you're in, you're bound by the rules. No exceptions, no negotiations. The main rules are these. First, any non-sorcerer who awakens a cursed technique must kill someone within the next 19 days or be automatically eliminated. Second, participants who kill other participants earn points, and those points can be used to propose new rules to the game, as long as the arbiter accepts them. Third, no participant may leave the colony. It's cruel in a surgical way. Kenjaku didn't create random chaos. He created a system that forces people to kill each other just to survive. People who just awakened a power they never asked for, who have no idea what's happening, trapped inside an area that became an involuntary arena. And the worst part? All of this was activated using Kenjaku's technique through Geto's own corpse as a tool. He literally used the body of one of the greatest sorcerers in history to pull the trigger on his plan. Yuji, Megumi, and the impossible bet. Put yourself in this situation for a second. Your most powerful teacher has been sealed away. Your world just turned into a battlefield, and the only way out you can see is to voluntarily walk into that game, exactly where Kenjaku wants you to go. This is where Yuji Itadori and the others step in. Their goal isn't to win the game, it's to manipulate it from the inside. Using points accumulated through battles, they try to propose rules that create loopholes, especially a rule that allows moving participants between colonies, connecting the characters scattered across the country. Megumi, for instance, is on a deeply personal mission inside the game, finding Tsumiki, his adoptive sister, who was involuntarily enrolled in the Culling Game. But what he finds along the way is going to hit much harder than he ever expected. Pay close attention to this, because it's fundamental to understanding what comes next. The sorcerers of the Heian era. Remember those sorcerers I mentioned who were lying dormant inside ordinary people? Those are the Culling Game players, entities who lived during the peak of cursed techniques over 1,000 years ago, strategically resurrected by Kenjaku to participate in the game. Among them, two stand out in an absolutely absurd way. The first is Hana Kurusa, or rather the entity embodying her, Angel, a Heian-era sorcerer with one of the few techniques in the world capable of dissolving any cursed technique, any of them, including the prison realm where Gojo is sealed. Suddenly, the game has a concrete objective for Yuji's team. Find Angel, accumulate enough points to propose a movement rule between colonies, gather everyone together, and use her technique to free Gojo.
It's a plan built on layers. Every step depends on the one before it, and one wrong move in the middle can bring the whole thing crashing down. The second name you need to remember is Hiroimi Higuruma, a former judge who awakened a technique called deadly sentencing with a staggering power. In a trial governed by his own magical courtroom rules, if the defendant is found guilty, they permanently lose their cursed technique. Hiroimi enters the game as a man completely broken by the judicial system he swore to serve. But his interaction with Yuji is going to shift his trajectory in ways you won't see coming. Sukuna and the breaking point. Now we've reached the core of the arc, and this is where things get genuinely disturbing. Throughout the entire series, Sukuna existed as a contained threat, a dangerous tenant inside Yuji's body, with controlled, restrained, almost theatrical appearances. But the Culling Game was the trigger that removed every single restriction. Megumi, in complete despair over what happened to Tsumiki, opens the exact crack Sukuna needed. And within moments, Sukuna takes full control, not of Yuji anymore, but of Megumi. Sit with that for a second. The character you watched grow up, fight against his own limits, carry the guilt of every wrong decision he ever made, was used as a doorway for the most destructive being the series has ever seen. And Sukuna, inside Megumi's body, with unrestricted access to the 10 shadows, the most versatile and powerful ability ever shown in the manga, unleashes something the world of JJK has never experienced. What the Culling Game really represents. Here's the layer most people overlook when they analyze this arc on the surface. The Culling Game is not just about battles, it's a critique of systemic control. Kenjaku built a system where even those who resist are involuntarily feeding the game. Every death generates points, every new rule reinforces the structure. Even the protagonists, by trying to subvert the game from the inside, are participating in it. It's the kind of storytelling that uses the shonen genre to say something heavier. Sometimes, fighting within a corrupt system is exactly what keeps that system alive. The question isn't just about winning, it's about understanding that true victory might require destroying the rules entirely. Gege Akutami constructs this arc with calculated coldness. There's no room for comfort. There are no easy wins. Every step forward the protagonists take comes paired with a loss that genuinely hurts. And more often than not, the loss is bigger than the gain. So here's the question you're taking with you today. If Sukuna has already taken control of Megumi, if Gojo is still sealed, and if the game itself was designed to consume anyone who enters, what does Yuji Itadori still have to offer in a world where even the strongest have already failed?